In this lesson, we're going to be opening the pause menu when the escape key is pressed. To start, we're going to create a new folder called pause menu. And then within there, we're going to create a new UI document called pause menu. We're going to open it. And then we're going to drag a visual element onto the canvas. We're going to call it overlay. And then we're going to change the background color to black with a certain alpha. We're going to make the position absolute and then set the left, top, right, and bottom values to 0 so that it spans the entire canvas. Then we're going to add another element called panel. And we're going to set the align properties so that it centers our panel. And then we're going to set the panel width to 50%. And we're going to drag a button on our panel, and we're going to again make it so that it doesn't stretch the button, and we're going to call it resume button, and then we're going to set the text to resume. Next, we're going to create a new script called pause menu UI, and it's going to require a UI document. In our awake function, we're going to get a reference to the UI document. Then we're going to grab the root element and we're going to query for the resume button. And then when the resume button is clicked, we're going to call resume. And we're going to invoke a event called resume. Then we're going to open up the UI manager, and we're going to create a variable to store a reference to our pause menu. And then we're going to listen for the resumed event, and we're going to call on unpause. I'm going to create that function now. And I'm realizing that we did not implement that in the last lesson, so we're going to go ahead and do that now. So in our input reader, we're going to create a new event called unpaused. And so when we're using the UI action map, when they press the escape key, it is also going to unpause the game. Now, when the pause event is invoked, we're going to enable our pause menu. And then when it's unpaused, we're going to disable it. Now I'm going to create two functions, enable UI input and enable gameplay input. And these are going to essentially switch which action map we're using. And so in enable UI input, we are going to enable the UI action map, and then we're going to disable the gameplay action map. And then vice versa for the gameplay input. Then we're going to call the functions we just created. We should also be listening for the unpaused event from our input reader. And then we're going to stop listening to the events in our onDisable function so we don't have any memory leaks. Now we're going to create an empty game object called pause menu UI. And then we're going to add a UI document. We'll select the default panel and our pause menu UXML file. Then we're also going to add our pause menu UI. Then we're going to drag the reference into the UI manager. We're going to disable the object by default and press play. And it's not happy because we're now using the new input system, and so we can resolve that by creating a new empty game object called event system and then adding our input system event parenthesis UI toolkit. Now if we press play, we shouldn't get that error anymore. As you can see, when I press the escape key, the menu pauses, and then when I press it again, it disables. However, as you can see, the button clicks aren't working, so let's investigate that. To resolve the issue, we're going to want to move the code block to the onEnable function. Now if we press play and open the menu, you can see when we click the resume button, it closes it. Now we're going to create a plane, and the default material blinds me, so we're going to create a darker one. I'm just going to create a folder for materials, and then within here I'm going to create a material called green, and then we're going to change the color to green. Now we can just drag that onto the plane. All right. So now we can create a sphere, and I'm going to set its height to 5, and then I'm going to give it a rigid body so that it's affected by gravity. Now if I press play, it's going to fall down to the plane. So now let's see how we can pause that using our pause menu. And so in the onEnable function, we are going to set the time.timescale to 0. And then in the onDisable function, we are going to set it back to 1. Now we're going to enable our pause menu by default. And as you can see, the ball isn't falling. Now if I hit resume, it falls to the plane.